So, this is Jamie O'Reilly again, back for another episode of the Helpful Druidry. And this one's a different one. I want to discuss something with you. I feel you need two things. One, my credentials to be a druid for you, the audience. And here's why. I I feel that basically this is for both this general audience and the League of Crafts. And they're a group of friends of mine, a lot of whom are sort of just folks who I met in certain circumstances. By the way, if you hear a cat licking herself, that is the cat who's currently off camera. I do have a cat. They're kind of a familiar. And thankfully, they've stopped it. Thank you. Anyway, here's the circumstance. I have been practicing for 8 years, as I think I've mentioned previously. For a lot of folks, that would mean essentially a sort of. She started again. Gracie, if you want, you can come over here. She won't listen to me. This is too important. Anyway, here's the thing. A lot of folks might say that they're practicing for 8 years, and I will admit I am one of the most. I think I am aggressively skeptical. In as a trait, or at least I was, but I still think I kind of am. I'm not one who I would say is prone to flights of fancy. Who basically, when I was young, I remember asking my father, or saying to my father, um, "I wish that magic was real." So, why did I change my view? That's the real question, isn't it? I think it changed a few years ago when I had a dream about my grandmother who had recently passed, and she was an amazing woman, genuinely delightful, proud activist, very devoted to my grandfather, but still supportive of gay rights and lesbians and such and desegregation in the South in the 80s. Just an awesome, upstanding woman. And she and my grandfather got along famously. They were great together. But eventually, she, of course, deteriorated and passed. And I wanted some closure. And when my gran passed, and after that, I just thought, you know what I'll do? I'll just imagine her. And then I was in her breakfast room. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I She'd invited me in a way because there was a dream the night before, and this is what caused me to do it. I had dreamt of being back in a house I had recently moved from, and she was there, and she had visited that place and invited me to come down and hang out at the park together. And it was very nice. And I wanted to do this as a bit of closure when I woke up about a day, and this was, I think, a day later. This was, I should mention, about 6 or maybe even 8 years ago. This was kind of what no, I was no, it would have been less than 6 years ago, more like 5. And before then, I'd been kind of going back and forth on whether I believed in this stuff. I I had my own reasons for believing, but anyway, I talked with my grandmother in the other world. I'd gone through the veil, and I did so weirdly easily. And I don't suggest you try this. This was a very strange experience. And I don't know why it worked. And I could confirm things that she told me with my dad at the time, and he believed it, and he knew her very, very, very well. I feel like sometimes parents and like family members, sometimes I think, in other cases that weren't like theirs, don't know everything about one another or don't know most, but like my father really cared very deeply and thought of my grandmother as an incredibly good role model. And so, essentially, because of that, um, he saw her as sort of a person who he looked up to, and found as sort of a representative of what was right, and as well as with my grandfather. And so he confirmed a lot of what she said. She had her hair done up, and like it was still dark, but she had I hadn't seen her for the last few years as she deteriorated, but I saw her then, and she was fully wrinkled. She didn't want to look in the other world like perfect. Folks, I think, can do that. They can appear at any age or whatever. Wonderfully, science has sort of slowly gone in a direction in CERN. Like the Times and the Atlantic have made suggestions about afterlife as it being simply psych, sort of a place entirely ruled by the mind. And from my experiences interacting with it, this was not the last time. That was entirely true. Um, Folks can do whatever they want. They often like certain things that they did in life, but they often really don't like them and prefer to do something completely different and strange. But they often, there's sort of a mix, I'd say, is the most common. And with all of that in mind, um, I think the most, I think the most interesting part of it was that essentially I could talk with other folks, and I eventually lost this. I can't do it really anymore. But I know it happened, and I know that my friends and maybe even the public might be find value in it, but I've talked with folks. I met my husband's grandmother. I learned her name from her, and it was correct. And he didn't even know his grandmother's name. They had never met, but his mother confirmed it. Her name was Juanita, and she preferred a cubist reality, one where it was all just abstract and beautiful. She preferred this sort of Doña-esque life. I don't know how she lived in life, but it was very fine what I saw there. Very curated for a very specific but sort of fun but entire with class of a very strange kind of class in that world she preferred. For me, I've never done any sort of substance to make this occur, and I won't intend on ever doing that. This was a gift I was very thankful for. I talked with folks. There's a person who I tried to reach out to. Their name was Alan, and apparently they had passed recently for reasons. There's some folks I couldn't reach. Sometimes it would break down a little bit, as it felt like fabric unraveling as I tried to interact with it. I think the veil eventually pushed me back out. I don't know how it works. I do know that, in my opinion, that basically all the gods are real. From that, I talked with some of them. I won't tell you who. That I don't think would be right. This is madness to certain people. some people, this might become viral entirely because I'll be used as sort of reaction content for someone who thinks me mad. In that case, I think it would be fascinating. Anyway, I don't think I am. I think I'm just if there's anything wrong. I mean, I used to really consider it. I used to think that it might be some sort of um thing. I don't know, between, I mean, one could, but I mean, schizophrenia requires it being sort of something you can't start or very keenly can't stop. It's stopped, and that suggests a defense for it. I, there are rules people will tell you about within this sort of thing. Once you get far enough, not with just your normal tarot readers who are on the very early step. It don't try what I tried. I've had nights of just wondering whether I was insane, of struggling with the fact of the inequity of it, perhaps. The I would just let you know what I came away with is the idea that there is good. And it's the world, the universe was made with good intent. And is that good intent will one day be carried out. But it won't be managed by us. I'm not suggesting you do anything. I'm suggesting you try and find something fulfilling for yourself, for your life, and to try and help others. But I was going to explain magic. I should explain magic. Magic is not one thing. It's I. It's quite directly not one thing. It's both divine and cursed. It's a ton. It's a field. It's everything from uh like willing of the ancestors to using your actual form as a conduit by and as the resource for which belief can be manifested. You can, and I do not recommend you do this. Please don't. You will feel exhausted, and especially if you have previous obligations, you might just not meet them. But you can, and I've done this, and I highly recommend you stay away from this kind of thing. Use a patron, speak to try and find whatever divinity will reach you and ask for their help first before you do this. Um, but essentially, what I did was you can use your own self to essentially be the thing by which you gain the sort of this for when I say a spell, I said this previously, a spell is just belief plus ritual and plus or minus action, which is direct towards a pre-existing goal. But also in the ritual, kind of what does the ritual mean? And I should explain that. Belief is simple, it's just believing that the thing will work, even though it's not inherently, it shouldn't make sense to entirely a person who doesn't believe in it that it will work towards the stated goal. Um, and what I would just say is, well, the ritual is what's really the most difficult part. Um, you need to figure out what you're doing, how to best. Because the thing is that a ritual towards when it's divine is simple. You're finding a way of requesting the influence of the divine, whatever that divine may be. But when it's something that's just you, how do you gain access to you? Sometimes you just do the thing and say, this, I'm doing this by way of my own will. And human will's powerful But don't don't ever try and think I'm everything because you're not. I'm not. You're not. We aren't. We're members of this universe, not sort of its keepers. Um, and there are like those who are Fey among you or such. The Fey are, I think, in a bad rap, but anyway. Um, where am I going with this? I would just basically say I think that magic comes from a few different sources, but it's all to be very clear. Most magic humans never interact with, or no, that's not. We interact with it by seeing it, but also I think a lot of it goes on without our permission, where things just have to work and they won't work by way of physical explanations. So thereby they just kind of end up functioning. And I mean, that's kind of what quantum physics kind of is, or the fact that why is electricity both a particle, or no, why is light both a particle and a wave? Well, because it has to be, or otherwise it wouldn't work. And I think magic ends up basically being this thing where it's the thing that makes everything work, but a ton of it is entirely disconnected from itself. Sometimes it's just basically like, I mean, magic is as complicated, varied, and disagreeing. Like, both things will be true, but they don't agree with each other as science. But science will do that. Science will absolutely have one field, like, say, particle physics, that'll absolutely disagree with the findings of material sciences because they're working at this from completely different points and emergences happen between the two scales that they're working at. And so now you're just stuck with two completely conflicting answers. And so is true between just, I mean, you've got the left-handed and right-handed path, left of the sort of the will of oneself and and kind of chaos and all of these things. And it's not evil. Just to be clear, it's not evil. But the right-handed path, which intends for righteousness, also I think that we should accept that when it's a left-handed person, it's kind of flipped because it's really talking about the high road and the low road. But anyway, this is the thing. Essentially, you and everyone are kind of sort of trying, we're all trying our best here. And the issue is, I swear to God, I wish that there were more entities that write about this because I've seen this stuff enough. I went to a fest in Texas recently, and I went and we both came to the same conclusion on their inventory. Everything was basically okay, except one thing, and that was the chair that came from a hill house in Merrill Wells, Texas. And both of us had not talked about it. I mean, they talked about it, and they kind of listed off everything as similar, but when they gave a second, when I saw that chair, I've never seen a single object that wanted to kill me more, that wanted to just destroy everything more. I, this stuff is real. It can hurt you, and you should be careful. You should think about how much you want to interact with this stuff, how much you're willing to take on in yourself, how safe you are, and how unwilling to be kind of unsafe you are or as a person. I've seen a lot of things. for the league, we've had members who were endangered before by probably because of their personal practice, even though no one could have known who they were and how they practiced, because these are often closed practices, really. The reason I'm comfortable sharing this is I know whoever wants to kill me can already try, and there are some. And but I want you to know this isn't telling you the world is made of darkness or evil or anything. There are bad people, but you knew that already. Really, it's just the fact that we're making ourselves open and vulnerable by just practicing, and you deserve to know that. If I'm not going to go over here telling you, oh, open the open the well, it will be good, it will be fine. But no, you need to know. You, you deserve to know if you're going to do this, if you're going to practice deeply and not just do a little bit of tarot, you need to think about it both as like a thing you'll research and consider and try, you'll meditate, you'll exist, you'll be present. And what's also weird, and this is an thing that's personal to my experience, is it often feels that it sort of shifts between what basically between the sort of like you'll be noticing how much you're doing one week and then the next it'll be kind of quiet and I feel like it's taken me a long time to realize I'm doing anything interesting because it's hard to lay out all this information. I've done way more than I mentioned here. A lot of it had fascinating bits of proof. I told a friend what their house looked like because I projected over there because I saw it in my mind, or also a car that they happen to be next to, and described it fully to the point that it's kind of frightening. And I'm good at this. And you should be careful about this because that also gives you an idea on what can be done and what bad actors are capable of. So I would just warn you, as long as you're Gracie, someone did come into the room. You're not crazy. Um, Basically, that's the biggest thing is that the world is not a bad place. There are bad people within it, but there's actually the thing is that the whole thing is made for it's made for good purposes. We are in a tough time, but you already knew that. Things are strange magically. This is an era where I mean, think people have been able to do things very directly. I have no idea how this compares because there's so little that I've been able to find that really feel that both keeps accurately true. And it's been hard to get a hold of too many sources that are really reliable because so much of it varies and so much of it is disprovable. I mean, the reason that I have problems with the OBOD is that they suggest that Arthur is kind of Herculean, like he is sort of this demigod when he was just a man, a very important man, a man who is spiritually important, but they associate him with the winter solstice and give him so many powers what he is not deserving. And there's stuff like that all over the place of just misunderstandings that because someone said it and they are considered reasonable that just petered out into history. And the whole of occult literature is rife with this. And the idea that because magic is associated with what's the word? Uh like stage magic that Crowley had to rename it and give it a K, and then people stuck with that. We're this is silly. It's just the thing is that you need to be ready to just think critically and keep going, but only if you feel ready. And you've now heard my disclaimer. You know how dangerous this is. You know the world is, and you need to know there's beautiful things to be found. I got to have a talk with my grandmother, and it was good. And I wouldn't have known otherwise that she was supportive of LGBT topics because it wasn't a thing we just discussed beforehand. She passed long before I met my husband. And these things can be both beautiful, life changing, grand, but they come with their consequences. The whole world is full of stuff, and you have been in a part of it, and you've been living a full life. Most, I hope. I might be wrong. You might be a couch potato who has never done anything. I doubt that, though, because you're here and because you're listening, especially if you've managed to make it to the end of a 26-minute rant. But I believe in you. I hope I hope that this has done something. If this has changed anything for anyone, I'm very happy. Blessed be and peace to you. And I won't tell you what I think's to come, but it's good. I have many reasons for it, and I won't tell you when, but just keep living. Find something valuable that you want to do, because simply enough, I think that's your best bet, is doing what is not just pleasure or just trying to kind of fret and find out the best way. Or you basically, I want you to try and find what feels not just filling one's time, but the thing that feels transformative, good, and deepening. I wish you well, dear listener. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you can see that the world is both terrifying, but even far more than that, in my opinion. It is genuinely beautiful. Bless you, and good luck. Prove that there is a cat. Here she is. She's very sweet. Her name is Gracie. And she was the one licking herself throughout the entirety of the video you just saw. I'm going to absolutely use this use this video or use this as the thumbnail, but I hope you enjoyed what you just watched. What do you find? Oh, you found the sword. Good on you.